In this program, we're going to learn how to use if so we can make decisions or choices. We're going to take dog years and human years and compare them. We're going to enter in human years and calculate dog years, or maybe we got it backwards, but we'll simply use multiplying by 7 to do that. I forgot to assign a accept button, so I just went over to the properties for Form 1 and made BTN calculate the accept button. Let's click on that and see that I've got a lot of stuff already set up for you. Again, the big thing to do is we're going to calculate the human years by 7 to get the equivalent dog years. So got a variable all set for human years and a variable for dog years. They are doubles, so we can use decimals. And I've got this constant dog to human multiplier. It's never going to change. It's always going to be 7 or 7.0. A try-catch is already set up as well. We're going to get human years from the text box and assign it to the variable human years, and we'll see if it works out okay. So the try-catch is all set. If I type in woof, which is not a number, there's the error message. You must enter numeric data. Grrr. That's in the catch. If I enter in an actual number, that will go through the try and skip the catch. And of course, there's really nothing in the try right now besides just trying to make sure we can parse what's in the text box into a variable. Well, let's take our first shot at using ifs. We'll make a simple if statement right here where just one thing happens if something is true. So if the human years of the dog is 7, we're going to check to see if human years and the number 7 are equivalent. If so, the dog's going to win a prize. But look at how we set this up. We have the condition in parentheses right after the if human years, and notice the double equal sign. That's how we compare two things to see if they are equal. Not with a single equal sign, a double equal sign. A single equal sign is an assignment operator. So if human years and 7 are equivalent values, we're going to show a message box explaining that this dog has won a prize. 7 is a lucky number. It's a lucky dog. The dog is going to get a treat, whatever the dog would like to eat. Some kind of a snack. So we'll tell it it's going to get a treat. Enjoy a snack. Could be dog food, could be people food, whatever you want to feed your dog. I'll throw in some more arguments here. Make the caption say prize. We'll just go with the OK for the message box buttons, and I'll use the information message box icon. And we'll see if this actually works, if human years is equivalent to 7. We'll type in 7, and there it is, the lucky dog message. If we type in another value that's not 7, like 9, nothing happens. That if block only executes if human years and 7 are equivalent. I'm going to put a breakpoint way out here on the left in this gray area to the left of the line number so we can watch this travel the path through the program. So I'll type in 7 and click calculate. The program pauses on the breakpoint where human years is possibly equivalent to 7. I'll step into, I have an older version of Visual Studio here. It's probably F11 for you. Mine is F8, but it's the same arrow with the dot underneath it. Well, because human years is 7, you notice the yellow went inside the if and showed the message box. I'll press continue to go back to running the program, and I'll type in 9 and press calculate. We pause on this if statement. We'll check to see if it's true, but it's not true. So what's inside that, the braces for that if don't happen. It just gets skipped because the expression that we're evaluating wasn't true. So there's just a simple if statement. Just check to see if something's true. We can also have an if-else block where we're guaranteed that one out of two things have to happen, but both things can't happen. So we're going to check to see if human years is okay. We're all right if the users type in 0 or a positive number for human years. It's not okay if they type in a negative number. So it's either okay or not okay. So if human years is greater than or equal to 0, notice how we do greater than or equal to as a comparison operator there. Greater than sign followed immediately by an equal sign. That's greater than or equal to 0. If you just wanted greater than 0, you'd use the greater sign. There's just less than. Here's less than or equal to. And of course, if you want to see if it's exactly equal to 0, that would be a double equal sign. But here's greater than or equal to 0. 0 or a positive number is okay. So that's a good dog. You can imagine we had a dog using a tablet or something and it's paused to enter in the values. Very talented for a dog. So we can go ahead and continue our calculations if the human years are greater than or equal to 0. Else, or otherwise, that's another way to say it, but more letters, else, it's bad. We don't want to do any calculating for negative numbers. We don't have to put a condition in parentheses here because either it is greater than or equal to 0 or it isn't greater than or equal to 0. So I'm going to copy and paste this message box that I had down here in the catch. I'll edit it a little bit, but I like what it has there as a bit of an error message. So I'm going to paste that inside this else, the braces for it, and I'll tell them they need to enter in 0 or higher. So the program has to follow one of those two paths, one and only one of those two paths, either the if part or the else part. If I type in negative 77, the else part executes. If I type in a positive number, the if part executes, which there's nothing in there right now. We'll get to that in a moment. Well, here are some things we need to do inside that if part. Calculate the dog years, display those dog years, and then we'll also eventually get a quote from the dog. I'm going to cut and paste those things up into that if block. Those are reminders for me that I knew I needed to do them. And here's where it's going to happen, because we only want to do those if they entered in a decent number. So dog years is going to equal human years times our dog to human multiplier, which is the constant value 7. But if someone should decide to ever change it, it's easy to change it in just one spot. We'll display this in the label LBL dog years, and I'm going to format it to 1 decimal place. So in quotation marks, I'll put N1. That's an N1, not an NL. We'll get to the quotes later on. So now, if they type in an OK value, which is greater than or equal to 0, the if block will do the calculations. And again, I apologize, I did not put a text changed event in here. I should have done that. There was 4, here comes 5.2. And it seems to be working okay. Once again, a negative value is going to take us to the else part. The program has to follow one of those two paths, and only one of those two paths. So I'll put a breakpoint out here to show you again where this if begins. We'll put in number 9. Which should be okay. So it's going to pass the test here. It is greater than or equal to 0. So as we take a step and step into it, there we go into that if block. And it will skip the else. I stopped that too soon to show you that, but it skips the else. If I type in a negative value, like negative 7, here it pauses again. When I take a step into, it skips the if block and goes to the else, and executes this message box with the error message for the user. If else, there's only two paths to follow, and the program has to follow one and only one of those paths. But maybe we have a lot of different things we want to consider as possibilities. And that's where IfElse If comes in. I'm actually going to put this inside another if block. That's okay. That's called a nested if. So we'll check to see if dog years is less than, and you can kind of do whatever you want here. I'm going to go with less than 11. So it's a very young dog for dog years. It's somewhere between 1 and 2 human years. So I'm going to go with LBL quote dog and have the dog give us its thoughts. And this dog is a puppy dog, and of course puppy dogs like chewing on things. So just a warning in advance from the dog that it's going to chew up a bunch of your stuff. Now if you should happen to have a red squiggle under dog years, which is possible, and you have a warning if you hold the mouse over it and it says that it's an unassigned value or unassigned variable, we can go back to where we declared dog years as a variable and initialize it right away to 0. So I'll come up here in case this is an issue for you. I'll just set human years equal to 0 right away. That will change when it gets the value out of the text box, and I'll set dog years to 0 right away. And that will hopefully take care of you have a red squiggle that tells you you have an unassigned value for your variable. Now, right after this, I'm going to go with an else if. When we have ifs and else ifs, it still only goes inside one of the blocks, or one of the choices for the ifs. So I'll go else if dog years is less than or equal to 30. And we'll have the dog give us another thing that's on its mind. Wants to go outside and play. So how about let's go outside and play with a Frisbee? And then you might think, well, if the dog is 8, that would be both less than 11 and less than or equal to 30. Well, it can only go inside one of these if-else if things, and it will skip all the rest. It will just hop over all the rest of them. We'll check out now dog years less than whatever you want to use. I'll say, I think 60 this time. And this dog's getting a little older, so it's gotten to go for a lot of car rides, and now it's ready to take its turn at the wheel. So this dog's going to let you know that it's going to drive the car this time. And we can keep stringing together else ifs. Here comes another one, getting a little older. So we'll go dog years is less than, I don't know. Again, you can pick whatever numbers you want. I'll go less than or equal to this time, just to remind you that there's a difference between less than and less than or equal to. And maybe like 155 or something. You can pick whatever number you want. So we'll just have this dog take a nap. So we have a whole bunch of else ifs ready to go. And in this block, it will only go inside one of them. And in fact, you notice it's possible it may not go in any of them if it's bigger than 155. And again, I apologize that I didn't put a text changed event in here. I should have done that. So there's 4 human years, there's 28 in dog years. You see the different messages are popping up on the right-hand side, as well as the answers on the calculate part. If you use some different values and different messages, that's perfectly fine. Your dog will speak to you with different messages and maybe at different ages. And we can also wrap up an if-else if block with an else if you need to. That's like a catch-all. If it didn't go in any of the other ones, it will go in here. In this case, it's got to be a super old dog. So check my pulse. Hardly any dogs are going to make it this far. So we'll test this out. I'll put in an insane number of years here, 27, which would be 189. And we'll have it checked. Yeah, ask to have the pulse checked. And again, sorry if I should have reversed the dog in human years. Hopefully you get the idea of what's going on. There's a lot of braces in this, so it can be handy to label the ending braces so you know what goes with what. It can be a real hassle when your braces get messed up. So this is the end of the if block for the dog quote. You can see it started up there. This is the ending of the end if. It's the end of the if block that dealt with if we had a positive or negative number or 0. So basically checking to see if the value that they typed in was okay. So if it was 0 or greater. And then we had this singular if all by itself that was just checking to see if the dog won a prize. Also notice that above the ifs, there's a little statement that explains what the if block does. When you have an if block, probably do just a very brief explanation of what the job of that if block is.